Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Spotted Pompcast. This is episode 2. We got a few comments about the first one. We know what to improve on, so thank you very much to those of you that did actually respond to the stories. But we're back. We're back. We're
We
better
are
than ever.
back.
We're better than ever, Harris, don't we?
Yeah, if you say so.
If
It's
we
going to be an
say
interesting
so.
day. We're going to get through it. It's gonna
Just
have fun,
about, hopefully. That's the plan, right? We can get through. Well, we
of
got
course.
to. Otherwise, this episode's not airing, Harrison.
That's fine with me, my friend.
Right. So pretty much, first episode, we briefly touched up. Touched up? No, we didn't touch up anyone. Let's scrap that. We briefly touched upon the coronavirus. That we joked about it. We said that we weren't making it out to be such a big thing, but times have changed, Harrison, as you know.
I think we're all living through the nightmares that we predicted,
It's
and
literally a
we
nightmare.
just want to apologise for that.
We're not apologising on behalf of this virus. It's not our bloody fault, is it?
I mean, I think we predicted it, and it came to truth.
Well, to be
It's
fair, I feel like I kind of undermined it a bit. I feel like I didn't think it was going to be as big as what it was, but here we are. We're on lockdown. There's nothing to do, and yeah, it sucks.
I mean, you're taking the piss out of people sitting on their balconies, and I'm pretty sure that's the guitar, aren't you?
Oh, I don't even know. But I mean, how are you finding it, Harrison? How are you finding quarantine?
I'm gonna be honest.
Oh,
I am an introvert at
you're an
heart.
introvert.
Yeah, I mean, I'm loving it. This is my domain.
You're in your
My
element.
yeah, the rest of my family are out going out their minds. They've been going out since birth, but my friend, uh, I'm just loving it. What about you, man?
Well, I mean, it's not as bad as what I thought it was going to be, and I've been playing my guitar a bit. That's what I've been doing to cure my boredom. And as you say, being an introvert does help because I mean, we're used to being inside. I'm one of the introverts.
Well, I mean, we've been doing it all our lives. I love
Exactly.
it.
So we're used to it, and I feel like the people that are going to be most affected by it are going to be some of the students. They go out clubbing regularly. They go out. They have house parties. I feel like they're going to be struggling very badly in this time.
Yeah, I mean, they've gotten used to it. They've been going out, but I mean, hopefully they're going in the process doing it.
Well, we can hope so. Hopefully they're not finding it too bad. Now, have you been doing anything exciting, Harrison? As exciting as things are going to get indoors, of course, because you've got to self-isolate. You're not allowed outdoors. You keeping occupied. That's the main thing.
I mean, that's a dangerous question, Kieran, because I mean, I think there's a good old sketch on Mitchell and Webb, and they talk about working at home and a reward system, a simple reward system to get a productive day done. And
Yeah.
I mean, with the culture of this podcast, it's I think it's quite fitting. It's treat yourself with a bit of a playtime. Have a little
Right.
fiddle, and
Gotcha. I
get
wish
your
I'd
stuff
never
done.
asked then, so I know what you're all
Well,
doing,
that's why I
Jez.
say it's a dangerous question, but I think it's in the mind of everyone in the general public.
I feel like a lot of people are going to be doing that to kill time. I mean, there's going to be a couple. There's going to be men out there. Their dicks are going to be looking like pepperonis after this is finished. Let me just say.
I mean, there was a study actually once that after like 6 months of only you touching wherever you touch,
Right.
that your genitals can't actually get aroused by anybody else's hand after that. I mean, you have to kind of reprogram it to actually get sexually aroused by someone else. So it's a dangerous game. I think the population might be in trouble after this lockdown, I have to
On the
say.
topic of that as well, I feel like if that was one of the symptoms for the coronavirus, maybe some idiots would take it more seriously. I mean, I've been seeing on social media some of the idiots just sitting in the park still. And I mean, to be fair, even because I mean, I'm technically during this time, I'm still working, so I'm working from home, but I've had to go into school, I think like twice, just for like some urgent. Okay, people can be hella confused going to school. I work at a school, for those of you wondering, in IT. So I didn't just randomly go to a school, right? That's not me. I ain't no bloody nonce.
Just a little stroll, I mean.
Just yeah. So when I went in, like I did see like people out and about, and I know they say you're allowed to do your one exercise a day or whatever. But I feel like I saw several people like in just massive crowds, and I'm just thinking like, why? Like, what are they doing?
It is stupid. I mean, I think I've seen a lot of heat about this on online. I mean, people are just having garden parties, and then there are the people who are taking it seriously and telling them, you need to stop. I mean but in truth, that's turning into people taking it into their own hands by making people stay inside.
Hmm.
Like there was this NHS worker who had to self-isolate by camping up in a holiday home, and then when she came outside one morning, all her tires had been slashed
You're
because
joking.
people thought she was just going on holiday, but in actual
Terrible.
fact she's trying to go. Yeah, I know.
Well, for those of you
People,
that are self-isolating and staying at home and washing your hands, that's the most important. I think they say every 20
oh,
minutes now, don't they?
I mean, I know. I mean, there's been lots of sayings of how to cure it. Is have a sauna,
Yeah.
drink every 15 seconds. I mean,
Stay
sh-
hydrated. It is bloody hot
stay
outside now.
hydrated, guys.
That's the most
Especially if you're having a
important.
little play.
Right, but I mean, no, for those of you that are self-isolating and taking it seriously, good on you, because I think most people need to be doing that. But Harrison, I think it's about time we kicked off this podcast with the first Pompfession, and it's a rather interesting one. We spoke about what are we doing to fill the time, what are we doing to stay occupied, and the first Pompfession of the second episode is Pompfession 2664, and it
Sounds
goes.
juicy, Kieran.
It's going to be juicy. So it says, thanks to isolation, I've managed to get my whole fist up my bum out of boredom. Love you,
Wait,
Boris. And I love how he adds the love you, Boris at the end of the line. Harrison, have you tried that yet? Have you done that yet during isolation?
I mean, I have to say no. I mean, especially with the. I mean, in my mind, I'm imagining him having or her having a little picture of Boris right in front of him to
Oh,
show his
dear.
love. But
I mean,
I'd say it's starting to set my standards to now.
you're going to add it to the daily goal list alongside
sure.
your press-ups and sit-ups or whatever.
Well, it sounds like this person's having a wonderful time.
Wonderful.
They've achieved their dreams. So why can't I?
Oh dear, right. I mean, okay, at least they're staying occupied. Whether it's true or not is a different question.
Have you been doing anything like this?
No, never do I intend to try anything along those lines. We have got a few more as well.
Well, I mean, first of all, I want to have some tips from this person. So if I mean, I know obviously well, you might want to say anonymous, but
yeah,
cut me some details of how to be getting this done, please.
So well, I don't know. I guess lots of lube, I think, would be the starting point. But we have we actually put out on Instagram, I should say, SpottedPompey put out asking people what they're doing in their spare time and what they think about the whole situation. Our first one, we're going to keep things anonymous just because I don't want to dox anyone. I thought it was quite funny. So someone said, finding out that the vice-chancellor of the uni is the biggest player in Pompey. He fucked 25,000 of us all at once. And this person is talking about the no detriment policy. We're going to be speaking about that later on in the podcast, but basically the vice-chancellor is not having any of it.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And this one's not really as funny. It's not really funny at all. It's just more of a thing to stay occupied, really. There's a website out there, Harrison. This actually might be, you might like this one.
It's like a website?
So there's, right, what kind of website are we talking? I don't know. Right. Now, there's a website which pretty much allows you to select the ingredients, and we're talking alcohol here for all of you alkies out there, which is probably everyone listening to the podcast. There's a website called Make Me a Cocktail, I think it's called, and you select the ingredients you have at home, and pretty much it will give you drink recipes based on your ingredients. So even if you've only got like a few beverages, a few, spirits or whatnot, it will give you a list of everything you can make, which I thought was kind of cool.
This is a regular thing for me, Kieran.
Is it? Oh, I guess you know everything off by heart anyway, because you are an alcoholic, Harrison, and you're afraid
Well,
to
I
admit
mean, I feel like with every alcoholic, they know what they're doing with the cocktail. I mean, I've had these apps installed since I turned 18. I have to say,
and some people start even younger.
I know. Well, if you guys haven't had this app installed, I'm just ashamed. You can't call yourself an alcoholic.
No. Anyway, we'll move on to the next one now. We've got this person. Well, I'm not going to mention names, as I say. I was about to dox him on the podcast. Pretty much, this one goes: shagged my missus through her letterbox. I mean, to be fair, credits on the guy, right? Credits on the guy. He's keeping his distance.
Isolating.
He's social distancing.
I want to know who's on what side.
Right, I'm not really sure what matters so much, Harrison.
Well, who's got the balls to stand outside? I mean, are they? Well, there's lots of questions.
It's definitely spontaneous. I'll give them that.
I mean, I imagine there needs to be a lot of planning going into this. I'm not going to lie. rather than
Imagine though,
spontaneity.
because I know the cops are like pulling people over and stopping people. Imagine they're just outside and just witness that. Like, what would their reaction be?
Well, I mean, like if the man's on the outside, I think they could get away with it because it's just a little slip through, and then
His excuse would
the,
just be he was putting a letter through the letterbox. That's what he was
well, I
doing.
mean, he's just standing looking through the peephole, where if the lady's on the outside, then she's putting on a bit of a show, I think.
And there is another one as well, kind of just briefly talking about the police, arresting people for being out. Some person got pulled over, and he was right outside his house. Apparently, he literally just left his house to do his daily walk or whatever, and he got pulled over. So
He didn't get done though, did he?
well, I mean, we don't know. That's a question we got to ask. Did you get done? Did you get done dirt with the police? Let us know at SpottedPompey using the hashtag Pompcast. He didn't really say much more. He just said he got pulled over outside his house. And the next one as well, probably the final one here, linking closely to the letterbox story. I think this one's more fucked up, if I'm honest with you. This one is from a person, they go, had sex with my ex at his grandma's peace garden while telling parents I was on a jog. First of all, I've got a couple of questions here. What is a peace garden? What defines a peace garden? This is what I'm hella confused
I don't think it's
about.
very peaceful anymore, do you think?
Especially not at his grandma's house. Actually, no, this is a girl, Harrison. This is a girl that's posted this in.
Well,
Not that matters. But
it doesn't matter at all. I mean, a peace garden sounds like a memorial site. I'm not gonna lie.
So this is
they're giving their grandma a bit of a show,
Well, hopefully the grandma didn't see. And I think there's also the second part of that. This girl has told her parents that she's going on a jog, so she's not listening to the government guidelines instead.
In all honesty, Kieran, I mean, I think that's beside the point.
I know people are desperate during this time, but crikey, like,
Yeah,
in your grandma's garden.
Yeah, they're saying it's hard times, having a hard time self-isolating. But I mean, you're gonna have a harder time once your friends died or your family's died because you spread it to them. It's a risk you have to play, especially for a quick shag in your nan's peace garden.
Not even just a garden, just the peace garden. Honestly, how could you do such a thing?
Spiritual threesome, that's what it is.
Exactly. Anyway, but that pretty much concludes all of the things that you guys have sent in. If you have got any stupid things you've done so far during isolation, or got any things you want to try, do let us know by tweeting at SpottedPompey using the hashtag Pompcast. And we're going to be picking the best ones, Harrison, each week and reading them out. So it gives everyone something to do. Have you done anything?
It makes me want to move to Pompey even more.
Exactly. But during this time, as we say, it's the perfect time to get stuff done. As a student, a lot of people hated it, the fact that we're stuck at home. But it's a good time to be doing deadlines, Harrison. And the next Pomp Fashion you can read out, you can do the honours of reading out because it's linked to this completing work.
Of course. So Pomp Fashion 2660, another juicy one. All this time I've been wishing for uni to get cancelled so I have more free time, and now it's cancelled. I still can't do coursework. LOL. I mean, that just sums up, I think, everybody procrastinating nature inside them.
As I'm sitting here recording this, I have actually got a deadline due next week, which I should probably start.
So do I. I mean, the date of my coursework deadline was on the day of the lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thanking God that it wasn't, because I hadn't finished it. I was going to go in and say, look, I didn't have time, I'm sorry. And now I've got an email saying it's for next week.
Really?
But guess what? Still haven't done it.
I feel like that's a lot of people. They kind of take this as a holiday, literally, even though it isn't. It's basically just you're still in education, but you're just stuck inside, and you got to try and do the best you can.
Yeah, I mean, if you're paying for it, then yeah, I would take it somewhat seriously, but
yeah,
they're paying me the big bucks.
Exactly. I mean, I should probably start that. I think after this recording, Harrison, I think I'll probably give that a go. But I mean, during this time, we've now spoken about the education side of things. People aren't taking it as seriously, and I think it is hard. Even just think about I feel sorry mainly for the kids that are lower down in the education system that were about to take their GCSEs, for example. I know my sister; she's about to take her exams, and that must have been a shock for them. It's something you prepare for since you start education. Like you start off low down, you learn your basics, your fundamentals, and the whole point of the education system is to build up to that final exam. So when you can't take that final exam, Must have been quite a shock for those students, I imagine.
Well, I mean, I know I would have been screwed. I mean, I think, because I think they're taking it from their mocks, aren't
So
they?
I think
I
so.
mean,
I think they're combining it with the mocks or predicted grades or whatever. And that's pretty much. We're going to be speaking about this later on in the podcast, but that's what some of the other unis are doing as well.
wow.
Pompey haven't decided to do that as of yet, but we will be speaking about that later on. But another aspect of... Oh, go on, sorry, Harrison, you can elaborate on that.
Well, I was going to say, I didn't know it was uni by uni, but I mean, I don't know anyone. I think maybe 3% of the people took mock seriously.
That's the
So to
thing. I feel like mocks, people don't really see them as like proper exams, do they? They see them as kind of like a fuck around.
I got like all Fs and 1 D. It was a proud
Nice
day
hard.
for me.
A proud day getting Fs and Ds. Yikes. The swift yikes.
I mean-
No, I see what you mean. Like, people don't take him seriously, and I think for that reason, like, doing that is going to screw a lot of people over. Except I did hear that there was going to be optional resits, which I think is the best way of going about it. You know, if those people aren't happy with their grades, then they get a chance to resit the actual exams in,
That's one way
wherever.
of doing it.
Which I think
That's
is
good.
probably a fair way of doing it. I feel like giving people their predicted when they're not as great and from their
Yeah.
mocks just isn't very fair. But
But then if it's great, you'd have to resit. I think that's a nice little system going there.
we'll see what the government choose to do with that, of course. But another aspect, Harrison, is also, during this time, and I think I feel bad for the couples out there that are distancing and can't really see each other. I know some people aren't listening to those guidelines, but during this time, you are gonna get like a lot of issues with couples, like a lot of breakups during this time. I think a lot of divorces. I think I've heard that this, during this time is going to be. Is that sarcasm? I can't read sarcasm.
No. I mean, really, have you heard people getting? Oh, actually, no. Yeah. You remind me, because people coming out of the Chinese ones, like, what was it? There's statistic like 30% of couples being quarantined.
Yeah, I think I saw some crazy percentage. But if you think about it, you're living with people, 24 hours a day. And I think before, where couples, they would go to work and they would get some time alone, they're now spending all their time together. And I think for couples that maybe didn't know their partner as well, they thought they knew him, they've now had to put up with them 24 hours a day. So think about that. There's going to be a lot more breakups, which links nicely to our next Pompfession, which is Pompfession at 2636. If you did submit this in, shout out to you. So it goes: whoever yesterday at Greetham Street was fighting over an hour outside my room because your girlfriend is a hoe, I'm going to find you and kill both of you because it was fucking 4:30 in the morning. I mean, not the best grammar going in that sentence. It was a bit hard to read. But I think
we shouldn't have read it then. I mean, grammar is everything.
Well, it was hard for me to read on the podcast right now, I'll be honest with you. No commas, no punctuation.
But we got the point. The point is just ridiculous, especially that they're outside. Oh, okay.
So they're having a domestic at 4:30 in the morning. It just goes to show you they've probably had enough of each other, Harrison. I don't see that couple lasting much longer.
I mean, if you're in a relationship, Kieran, would you want to be apart from that person or stuck inside with them? Which one?
I don't know. It depends, because some people are different. Like, I think like fiery people are going to struggle. I mean, say like I know our friend Gabe is a very fiery person, and I feel like if he was stuck with his missus, then there would be a lot of arguments just because he doesn't like being wrong. He always likes being in the right. You know that.
I'm not sure about that. I mean, I think we got different opinions on that one. I mean, speaking of that, we're gonna have Gabe's missus on as a special guest in a minute, and we'll get 2 cents on it.
I was expecting her to unmute her mic and stick up for her boyfriend. Honestly, despicable.
I think we should place bets. You think that? Okay, I'm gonna say they'd be all right.
You reckon? I think they would be. I think that any arguments they've ever had, they've always got over quickly. But there's some couples out there, Harrison, that don't find that as easy, and I think they're going to be the ones that struggle during this time. So
yeah, especially if you're already thinking about breaking up with them, and then it's lockdown.
Yeah.
And then it's.
But anyway, enough with relationships and all that stuff, all that malarkey. Well, malarkey for all us single people, Harrison. It's easy being single during this time. We're going to talk about accommodation. Now, this is something that hits home for a lot of students. There's a lot of people in Pompey that are struggling right now with their accommodation. We're going to read out. Well, I don't know, just because of how some companies are dealing with it. I feel like, some people are unhappy that they're paying, rent during this time. We're going to be getting Niamh in to speak about that in a bit. But some student accommodation companies aren't being as supportive during this time. You've got to understand their point of it. I guess it's a business for them, so they're going to be losing out on money during this time. And a lot of businesses are failing just because they can't deal with the whole economic situation right now. But we're not going to get too political because it goes over my head, Harrison. But we've got a few accommodation stuff here. So I know someone who lives in Jassy Halls. I hope I pronounced that right. So I think the Leaders Agency, apparently, is what they're called. I know someone who lives in those halls, and she's an international student, and she's been told that she can't get a refund or something because she's left her stuff indoors. I'm not too familiar with that company in particular, but I feel like a lot of companies, I feel like they've done the right thing. A lot of the companies are saying, Harrison, that in the third year they're going to drop fees completely, which I feel like is fair because you've got to see it from their point of view as well.
Well, what do you mean by that? So if
so
you're
they don't have to pay
now, you pay for it.
Yeah, so they don't have to pay for third year. So I mean, to be fair, I think that's quite good of them. They didn't have to do that.
No, definitely.
But I feel like I have heard stuff. I've heard the student housing company, which are behind Catherine House, haven't been as flexible. I've heard so. The body behind that company are looking at contracts on a case-by-case basis to determine whether they're going to be giving money back.
Wow. So it really just depends who you're with then.
Exactly. So I guess some people are
scary
more
stuff.
fortunate than others. But I mean, so I pulled this directly from the Portsmouth News. Link will be in the description to the article. There's a student who goes to the uni under the name of Emily Salt. I think it's okay to say her name considering it was in the article. But she says that she has yet to speak to anybody who has had a response. So people that have requested refunds for their accommodations, she's yet to get hold of anyone that has been successful. And she makes a fair point as well. I mean, so she goes on to say how some people haven't had a choice about returning home. So I feel like a lot of the situation, a lot of the issues lie in people being away from their accommodation right now, living at home, and they're not refunding people because they've got stuff in their accommodation, whatnot. I've not really read on it too much, but she said that some people have had no choice about returning home because of their health or either a family member's health or due to travel, which is a fair point. When you've got family situations at home, it's kind of difficult. Like for that reason, you've got to go back home. You don't have a choice.
Yeah, 100%. It's a tough situation. I mean, it's a lot of money when you're in that debt anyway.
Exactly. I think about the amount of debt people are in, and they're still having to pay for fees. And I think that this is the right time to bring in our special guest. She goes by the lovely name of Niamh. She isn't a student at the uni, but I thought it would be an interesting take getting a student from another uni and seeing how their accommodation troubles compare to ours. I thought that'd be pretty nice. So Niamh, do you want to introduce yourself?
Niamh, you're right.
We're good, Niamh. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks. I'm loving it. It's very exciting.
It is, isn't it?
There you go.
It's more exciting now you're on it, Niamh. So tell us a bit about your situation then, Niamh. Tell us what uni you're from, what you're doing for accommodation, and potentially any stories you may have regarding this situation.
So I'm in second year at Reading, so not too far.
Not too far.
Is this a better uni than Pompey?
Ooh, we're getting controversial now.
I'd like to say so, but
oi. No, I'm joking.
But so because I'm in second year, I've got a house and I signed a contract for a year, so there's no way around it really. I'm having to pay even though no one's there. But I've had a lot of people who've had problems. Like one of my mates, she emailed her landlords to ask for reduced rent, and they basically refused and said no, but you have to make regular visits to the property. And she's like, well, we can't because we're in a global pandemic.
That's kind of hard.
And he was like, that's not a good enough excuse.
And I feel like that's where the issue lies.
So expecting everyone to do that.
And she's in Scotland. She can't come back to Reading.
I mean, that's the same situation with the person I'm friends with. I just started so badly there. Apologies for that. Now she's an international student, so she lives in Greece. Back at home, her home is in Greece, and her
big commute.
Yeah, exactly. So her company is saying that she needs to, if she wants the money back, then she's got to go back on campus and collect their stuff. Otherwise, she can't get it. Which, I mean, how is she supposed to? She took flights. I mean, think about it, right? This whole situation, it scared everyone. They got the cheapest flights possible to get back home as quickly. Because, I mean, realistically, we didn't know how much we were going to be on lockdown, did we? It was a scare. And especially for international students, they took the chance, they took the opportunity where they could, and to get straight back home. Because the last thing they want is to be, trapped in Pompey during this time. I mean, you don't want to be trapped in Pompey anyway, even out of lockdown. But
I think someone can make quite a nice business out of that. I mean, picking someone else's stuff up, keeping it storage, and then they get their money back.
I guess,
maybe
yeah,
10% commission.
I think people
That'd be
are
quite
making money
nice.
off that. I've heard that storage companies are doing well during this time just for that reason. But how is, as you're saying, Niamh, your friend, when she lives in Scotland, there's not really any way that they can. I mean, they could travel back. They would get stopped by the police most likely.
Exactly. And I don't really think that counts as essential travel, as the
No.
government guidelines are suggesting, just
No.
your landlord not being great and being quite selfish, basically. The thing is, I understand about money,
Yeah.
but that's like a different story, having to visit the property, because surely the landlord lives in Reading anyway and he has a key. Because wouldn't that make
Yeah,
sense?
well, that kind of, yeah.
Or he would definitely have a key wherever
Well,
he
you'd
is in the
hope
world.
so.
But
Like,
they
I
don't
understand
want to
they
lose
signed the
money, though.
contract, but when we all signed our contracts, back in October last year or 2 years ago even, like, we
I
had no
mean,
idea this was going to happen.
I don't
there
think
should be a
anybody
social
did.
pandemic clause
No.
about it.
I feel,
should.
I feel like there must be some government, regulation where it takes stuff into consideration, because as you say, Niamh, a lot of students, none of us knew this was going to happen, and they signed thinking it was just going to be normal. And of course, times have changed, and people are getting screwed over financially because of this. And students, they're struggling as it is already, and
Yeah.
they're having to pay during this time.
Well, that's exactly it. Well, the thing is, like with mine, so I'm having to pay rent monthly as usual, which,
Yeah.
I completely agree I should, because if we didn't pay it, then the landlords would get in shit and then
Well,
they
I
wouldn't
mean,
be able
not
to pay
necessarily though.
whatever.
There's government schemes, which is
Yeah, but I mean, like, this is the problem. I can't work at my job. I work at a cafe that's
Yeah.
been completely shut down. So
That's another
all my
difficult
money
thing.
that I've saved, I'm
Yeah.
having to like use that when that was like my savings.
Are
if
you
you know what I
getting
mean.
80% off the cafe then, or
Yeah,
you've been
but
laid off?
I've basically been laid off.
That's
Yeah.
terrible.
So you're
And
not getting paid
I mean,
then
it's
at
all
all?
right, because that's why I've been saving, because for
Yeah.
like moments like this, you never know.
That's
But I
terrible.
literally, my rent, I'm just like, I'm supposed to pay it, and I actually don't really have any money.
That's
But
I'm sorry to
yeah,
hear that, Dave. I mean, I know
it's all right.
another place which has laid off pretty much all of its employees. They've said for them to all take unpaid leave. So basically, they're saying, "Oh, we're keeping you on, but we're not paying you during this time," which is
That's exactly what my
terrible.
job's done.
Is Weatherspoons?
Some employees
Oh,
are
really?
alright with that
Yeah.
though. I mean, there's Virgin that have asked. I think they asked their employees to take 2 weeks.
Yeah.
At the very start of the pandemic, 2 weeks unpaid, and they offered to take even more off. I mean,
For the
just
smaller
to make sure they keep their
companies,
jobs.
I feel like fair enough. I mean, they're going to be strong. So like independent places like coffee shops, Niamh, as you know,
Yeah, like mine.
they don't do the best financially anyway. I mean, they produce enough to stay afloat, but of
But you
course,
gotta
a company like that doesn't have as much as Weatherspoons, and you've seen the way that they've treated all their employees during this time. And a lot of people are saying
Yeah.
boycott Weatherspoons. I mean, I think putting that tweet out on Twitter isn't going to do much. People are still going to go
Yeah.
back to Weatherspoons, but I just think it's
That's my
sad
first
that
thing I'm
all
doing.
those
I
people.
mean, but if you put yourself in the employee's shoes, though, would you rather be laid off completely and then have to search for a new job in this horrible situation where no one else is going to be hiring unless it's putting yourself at risk in the supermarket, or would you rather have a guaranteed job to come back to? I mean, sure, you're not going to get paid, but at least you do have something to go back to at the end of it all. I think some companies are just doing the best they can with it. And because I mean, obviously we weren't aware of this 80% furlough until lockdown was announced, and then a lot of companies were already preparing for the worst scenario by laying people off. It's different. It's situational. That's all it is.
So do you want to tell us a bit more about your friend's situation, Niamh? Because you said some of your friends have been struggling with their accommodation. I want to see how that compares to some of our students. Do you want to speak more about your friends?
Well, I don't know. I've got a mate who doesn't actually go to my uni. She goes to another one, but she's got a housemate from hell, I think is the best way to describe it. So she lives in a house, but she's moved out. But one of her housemates is still there, and is it's just not. I just don't think it's very fair that she's having to pay like the water bill and everything when it's just the other person using it. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
I mean, I think that's kind of
Like,
bad. They could be milking it as well, you know, having
well, they're the kind of person who would.
It would.
That's the problem.
5
Yeah.
showers a day, 4 baths.
Well, they've got a hot tub apparently.
Have they?
They've been using it. Yeah, bougiest student accommodation ever.
He's living life, and he's got a free house to himself. It's all getting
Yeah.
paid for,
It's unbelievable.
which is terrible. And I feel like
But-
some companies and some landlords haven't taken the situation into consideration. At the end of the day, for them, it's all about money, which you can see their side of it. But at the same time, we're students, right? We struggle with money.
Yeah, exactly.
So they're not being very, very fair. I feel like a lot of the student accommodation in Portsmouth have dealt with it all right, you know, and I think it's the same with your uni. How they're refunding the 3rd year, which I think is fair.
Yeah.
But for the people that have already paid for the 2nd year accommodation, of course, they're still having to pay, and they are struggling. So what do you think should be done, Niamh?
Well, this is the thing. So my uni is doing a thing where basically 3rd term we don't have to pay
Yeah.
if we're in student accommodation, which, you know, kind of sucks for all the people that aren't, like me. I don't really know what the solution would be, because at the end of the day we did sign a contract. So but maybe like reduce rent, for example.
Yeah. That
Like,
could be one
but my
way.
mates like spoke to these their landlords, these other friends, and they were like, "Oh, can we not pay right now because we can't afford it?" And they were like, "Fine, you can just pay everything that you haven't paid at the end of June." But how do we know if this is going to be over at the end of June?
That's true. I mean,
know?
I've heard that this thing's going to be going on until around June. But I mean, you know, you hear everything. You know, you hear some people saying
well,
it's going to
exactly.
be September, but never really
Well,
knows.
that's it. There's so many rumors and everything like that. It's just kind of a bit like,
I mean, even after we come out of this lockdown, it's going to be a whole new recession. The economy's not going to be the same as what it
No.
was. I mean, the airlines can take 4 years for them to get back up to what they were before this.
And that's the thing,
I
you've
mean,
got to
that
look at
just-
the
yeah.
aftermath of things. And are these accommodation companies going to raise their prices? As it is,
I mean,
students are
but
struggling.
are they going
Yeah.
to be able to stay afloat at all, though? That's the thing.
That's
I mean,
another way to look at it.
if they do raise their prices, people aren't going to be able to afford
You're
it.
going to have a lot of angry students if they raise their prices.
I mean, the
Well,
whole
this is-
the whole thing's going to be fucked.
But I was
But,
thinking for like all the 3rd years, they're not that well. Our 3rd years aren't going to have a graduation, and they're not going to have an economic climate to get a job in. I mean, I
that's
don't know if
true.
we are as 2nd years. You know, it won't be better in a year's time.
No, it's still definitely not. We wouldn't have recovered fully by then. If you think about the whole
absolutely.
global scale of this, it is scary, and it is an uncertain time for students during this time. So
Absolutely.
business, I mean, it affects everyone. It is a scary time for students, though. I'll say that much.
Yeah, definitely.
Fuck off to Australia.
But I think that pretty much we've spoken a lot about accommodation there, Niamh. Is there any other things you want to add? Before we sadly have to let you go, I'm sorry, it's depressing.
No, it's all right. No, not.
I'm just
not what I
conscious
can
of
think
time.
of. Just that me and Gabe are going strong.
You're going strong.
Ah,
That's
If
so
we were
happy
together,
to hear.
Fuck you,
If
Gabe.
we were together in quarantine, we wouldn't break up because we've only ever argued twice. But Harrison's been there for both of them, so.
Has he
I was
been
gonna
like the
say,
reassuring
there's-
person that kept you strong?
Oh,
No.
Jesus. Don't make
I
me
want to know where
relive
I
it.
was during all this time. I was sitting in the back.
You left
You don't-
early.
You don't
Did
want
I?
to be there,
Oh.
Kieran.
I'm
Jeez.
quite good. I'm literally like the Dr. Phil of Pompey. Let me just say.
When you got some, I'm not gonna say which is which, but when you got someone throwing a tantrum, pulling up grass and chucking stuff into the road,
Right, okay.
and then another one crying their eyes out, Gabe.
Maybe that's a
It's,
different story for another time.
But
But-
I am just saying that we would be amazing in quarantine together.
I
and
think you
that
would.
it
I
sucks that
take
we're
back
not
what I
together.
said
I think it
earlier.
would be scary. I think you'd come up with dance routines and
Oh yeah.
you'd come up with your own secret language.
That's the thing,
Oh,
you two are actually
definitely.
very
It'd be amazing.
similar. So I feel like
Oh,
you
God,
you would work very well. For people that aren't as similar, then they're going to find it hard.
Maybe.
But Niamh, I hope that everything works out with your accommodation, as I
Oh,
say.
thank you.
I'm sure there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I'm sure we don't have to worry.
Oh,
There'll be something put in
hopefully,
place to support you, because as you say, just like you, a lot of students are struggling. So
Oh, definitely.
hopefully there can be a
absolutely.
resolution to all of this. But do you want to plug any socials, Niamh? This is your chance to do it.
Oh,
You've got a big
well,
audience.
that's the problem, because I've got a really weird spelled name, so I don't think anyone's going to be able to find me. But
What I can do is
mean,
I
if
can
they
put them in
go
the
on-
description for you.
oh yeah, that's
I'm a
good
nice
idea.
person, Niamh. So if you
Oh, thanks,
plug
babe.
your socials now, and then I'll put them
I
in the
will.
description.
I
Well,
don't
my
get this sort of
Instagram
thing.
is Navy_pain, I think.
There we go. Well, if
And
it's not,
yeah,
I'll
that's
correct
me.
it. But Niamh, thank you very
Cool.
much for coming on. I really
Thanks.
do appreciate it. And it's interesting to get
It's
other
all right. Thanks for
people's
having me.
opinions on the accommodation situation, as well as from a different uni as well, because we've got to compare it.
Yeah.
So thank you
Yeah.
very
Well,
much,
thanks for
Niamh.
having me.
No
See you
worries.
soon.
See
Love
you
you.
soon.
Bye.
Love
Been
you.
wonderful.
Bye. There you go. Niamh, such a lovely person, and I feel like her family's very lucky to have her during this time. You need people like that in a household to put smiles on your face.
I mean, they're one of the. I mean, they have a garden, which I mean, can you imagine not having a garden in this?
Is it a peace garden though, Harrison?
Well, I don't want a peace garden if it
Not after that. Not after that. But anyway, I think we're gonna briefly wrap this up. We spoke about earlier in the podcast, Harrison, the no detriment policy. Right, it's such a strong point to end this podcast on. We're going to speak about it for a bit. It's something which a lot of students is. What is it? That's a good question. So for you probably aren't as familiar with it because you're not a student.
No, I'm living the best life at the moment.
Living the best life. Well, I'll tell you what it is, Harrison. A no detriment policy. Basically, what it does, the whole idea of it is you forget about your exams, your deadlines, your coursework. That's all abolished, basically. And basically, I'm using the word basically a lot. I need to up the old vogue. Yeah, well, it is a basic policy. It pretty much scraps your exams, your coursework, and it introduces kind of a thing where the people marking your work normally, they would take into consideration your target grades and your previous grades. So a lot of other unis have implemented this already. Portsmouth are very much behind when it comes to this. As I briefly mentioned earlier, the Vice-Chancellor of Portsmouth is not very supportive of it at all. But we have had He's a hoe, right? I'm not going to say that because I'm going to get into trouble with the uni. They're most likely listening to this, and if you are, then maybe this is a good place to branch out people's opinions. And I think I'm going to be speaking for a lot of people, on behalf of a lot of people here, that we want a no detriment policy. Just because during this time, I'm still expected to do 2 exams, Harrison, in like a month's time.
But is this the same? Is this the same? Like, because I mean, we've got other friends in different unis, and they've got it that you can't go below the lowest mark you've already had.
Yeah, I think that is the case. As I was saying, other universities have implemented this already. So you've got the likes of Southampton, which is right next to us. They were one of the first people to actually introduce it, I think, and they listened to their students. So if you think about it, right, us students were paying all this money, however much it is, $9,000 a year, on top of the accommodation fees. Surely it's something that we get to decide. Admittedly, the Vice-Chancellor and the head bodies of the uni, they have to make that overall decision. But when the students are paying, when we're paying for their education, surely they've got to listen to us somewhat. It is our education at the end of the day, and their opinion on the matter might not be the same as ours.
Has there been a formal announcement? I mean, as someone said, representing the student body, saying that this is what we want.
Yeah, I was going to get onto this. There has been a petition that was put out on make a change.org or whatever, the site I'm on about. A student of the uni, I think I want to say 3rd year, put out a petition getting people to sign it in hopes to get the uni's attention, saying that they wanted it, to which the Vice-Chancellor actually responded, and he was pretty much saying how he's not implementing it, because he feels like students aren't affected. He's saying that students aren't affected by the whole situation.
Well,
that's not a direct quote, but
even though people have said,
so even though students have said that they are, and they've listed reasons why they are, he's basically said, we believe as a uni that we're doing everything we can to support our students, and no one's going to be at a disadvantage. We've spoken about earlier again in the podcast. You're going to have households that are rowdy, and it's hard to do work in. I can speak personally. There's a lot of people in my house. My brothers and sisters, they're a pain in the arse sometimes, Harrison. It's hard to actually get any work done.
You have your own room and a little office space as well.
I guess so. But, disregarding my thing altogether, you're also going to have places where...
other people are going to struggle.
Like the environment, it's a lot harder to work from home. And as I was saying, I've not done my deadline yet. The whole, atmosphere of being at home for me, I don't associate work with home. I associate... Only because I live at home during the week. I guess it might be hard for people that live at home, and then No, sorry, I'm chatting rubbish. The point I was trying to make was I live at home and then I travel up to uni normally, so I associate those two as two different places, whereas the people living on campus might associate it as one. But come to think of it, it might be harder for them because they used to live in there and work in there. Must be a whole different story
for everyone. I mean, if you do have a problem, I mean, are they still doing this petition?
So the petition, it got the attention of the Chancellor. That wasn't enough to sway them towards that whole no detriment thing. So the student union body, so the sabbatical officers in the student union that work at the student union, they were working hard to push the students' voice because obviously after that Vice Chancellor said that, students weren't happy, Harrison. So basically, they got, I'll put the tweet in the description, they got students that weren't happy with the whole situation to pretty much send in a video and say why, explain why they feel like the no detriment policy should be put in place. So if you do want a no detriment policy, guys, if you go to the uni, I think it's important that you do that. So the link will be in the description to that tweet. It has all the details on how you'll do this. And I feel like if you do want a no detriment policy, this is the best shot you're going to get at it. But the Vice Chancellor did respond to that, though that kind of post from the student union, say that it wasn't happening anyway. But I feel like the more people can get behind it, the better.
Of course. No, I mean, the power of free speech it's been proven to work.
Exactly.
We'll see
but
what happens.
I feel, we will see what happens. It'd be interesting to see whether the Chancellor listens to the students in the end. But give us your view on this whole situation, the no detriment policy. We would love to hear from you guys. If you want to, the best way to do this is probably be to tweet at SpottedPompey using the hashtag Pompcast, and we can read out some comments next podcast. But I think that's a good place to end it on, Harrison. What's everyone's view on this no detriment policy? Should it be implemented?
And Kieran, are we still doing these podcasts even though the university has been shut down?
Harrison, what a stupid question. Of course we are. We're going to be trying our best, everyone. We're going to be trying our best to cheer people up during this time, because there is a time where, as we say, it's boring. There's nothing to do. For that reason, we're going to try our very best to keep these podcasts as frequent as possible. But me and Harrison, we're lazy fuckers, right? It's hard to, sometimes it's not as easy as...
Well, I mean, with this lockdown, I think this is entertaining for me. I love listening to what people are doing in their stupid peace gardens.
Exactly, in your peace garden. So again, if you have, we said earlier, if you've got any stupid isolation stories, do let us know at SpottedPompey and tweet at us using the hashtag Pompcast, or alternatively, you can also message SpottedPompey on Instagram. And with that said, will we see a difference in that no detriment policy? I guess only time can tell, Harrison. But in the meantime, let us know what your thoughts are. It has been the SpottedPompey podcast. It's been me, Kieran McCusker, joined by the lovely
Harry Knapp.
Exactly. And of course, special guest Niamh as well. All the links to our socials will be in the description. If you did enjoy this podcast, make sure you leave a like. And also, if you have any feedback, let us know. We'd love to hear from you all. But with that said, Harrison, I think it's about time we close this off. Goodbye. Auf Wiedersehen. Peace out. And stay safe, everyone. Wash your hands. We'll see you next podcast. Thank you very much.